The emergency lights flashed red across the Galactic Council chambers. Representatives from 50 different species filled their seats, their voices creating a buzz of worry and fear. Speaker Morvain stood at the center podium, his tall frame casting shadows under the bright lights. "The situation is grave," Morvain announced, his voice echoing through the large hall. 3 days ago, the Korthak Dominion attacked the Zelani research colony on Kepler 442b. 200 innocent scientists and their families are trapped. The holographic display showed images from the peaceful research station before the attack. Zelani scientists worked in their laboratories, studying ancient ruins that covered the planet's surface. Their children played in gardens under artificial suns. It had been a place of learning and discovery. Now the same display showed burning buildings and Korthak warships in the sky above. "What do we know about their condition?" asked the Altarian representative, her blue skin pale with worry. "One message got through before communications went dark," Morvain replied. Elder Voss, the colony leader, reported they were hiding in underground tunnels. The Korthak forces have not tried to dig them out yet. A military advisor stepped forward. General Korax was a veteran of many conflicts, his scarred face showing years of hard decisions. "The tactical situation is impossible," he said bluntly. "The Korthak have 30 warships in that system. Their ground forces control the entire planet. Any rescue attempt would face 3-to-1 odds." "What about a diplomatic solution?" suggested the peaceful vegan delegate. Korax shook his head. "The Korthak don't negotiate. They believe might makes right. War Prime Zethus has declared the planet part of his territory. He's using the trapped Zelani as an example to other worlds." The chamber fell silent as representatives considered the grim reality. The math was simple and brutal. Sending ships to rescue the Zelani would only create more casualties. The logical choice was clear, even if it felt wrong. Speaker Morvain called for discussion. One by one, the species representatives spoke their minds. "We cannot risk our fleets for a lost cause," said the Centaurian admiral. "Those ships defend our own people," the Regalian ambassador agreed. "Emotional decisions lead to disaster. We must think with our minds, not our hearts." More voices joined the chorus of careful reasoning. Each speaker explained why rescue was impossible, why sacrifice was necessary, why logic demanded they abandon the Zelani to their fate. Finally, Morvain called for the vote. "All in favor of authorizing a rescue mission?" The Altarians raised their hands first, their compassionate nature overriding practical concerns. A few other species joined them, but not many. Fear of the Korthak ran deep. All opposed? Most hands rose. Species after species chose safety over heroism. The vote wasn't close. "The motion fails," Morvain announced. "The Council will not authorize military action. We will lodge a formal protest with the Korthak Dominion and offer humanitarian aid once the situation stabilizes." That should have been the end of it. But then Ambassador Sarah Chen stood up from the human delegation. She was small compared to most aliens in the room, but her voice carried clearly. "The Human Federation requests permission to speak." "The vote is finished, Ambassador Chen," Morvain replied. "We haven't voted yet," Chen said simply. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. The human delegation was tiny compared to the major powers. Most species forgot they were even there. "Very well," Morvain sighed. "How does humanity vote?" 6. Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives who had just chosen to abandon innocent people. "The Human Federation votes no. We refuse to abandon people who need help." The reaction was immediate and loud. Alien voices rose in protest and disbelief. "You can't be serious," called out the Centaurian admiral. "Your entire fleet has maybe a dozen ships. It would be suicide. The humans have lost their minds." muttered the Rigelian ambassador. Chen waited for the noise to die down. We volunteer to attempt the rescue ourselves. We ask for nothing from the Council, except that you don't interfere. This is madness, Morvain said, his patience wearing thin. Humanity would be throwing away lives for no purpose. No, Chen replied quietly. We would be saving lives. That's always a purpose. The debate that followed was heated, but brief. Other species called humans reckless, emotional, and stupid. They warned that failure would make the Korthak bolder and more dangerous. Chen listened to it all with calm dignity. When the voices finally quieted, she spoke again. We understand the risks. We choose to take them anyway. That's what makes us human. Speaker Morvain made the Council's position clear. If humanity proceeds with this mission, you act alone. No Council support, no backup, no rescue if you fail. Your blood will be on your own hands. We understand, Chen said. We accept full responsibility for our choice. The session ended in chaos as representatives argued among themselves. Some called the humans brave, others called them fools. But the decision was made. Light years away, Captain Jin Seo-yun received her orders aboard the UFS Indomitable. She read the message twice, then called her senior officers to the bridge. We're going to rescue the Zelani colony, she announced without introduction. Commander Yuki Tanaka, her chief engineer, whistled softly. The whole council said it was impossible. The council isn't going, Jin replied. We are. Dr. K.L. Thorne, the ship's medical officer, pulled up star charts on his tablet. 200 civilians trapped behind enemy lines. What's our tactical advantage? Jin smiled grimly. The Korthak think we're too smart to try. They're wrong about the smart part. She thought about her brother, killed on a colony the Council had abandoned 5 years ago. She had sworn then that no one else would die alone, and forgotten if she could help it. This is voluntary, Jin told her crew over the ship's communication system. Anyone who wants to transfer off has 2 hours. No questions asked, no shame involved. 2 hours later, not a single crew member had left. More volunteers arrived from other human ships, wanting to join the mission. As Jin's small fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, she made one final log entry. The galaxy calls this a suicide mission. Maybe they're right. But we call it something else. We call it the right thing to do. The ships vanished into hyperspace, carrying humanity's stubborn hope toward an impossible rescue. The hyperspace tunnel collapsed behind Captain Jin's fleet as they emerged at the edge of the Kepler system. 5 human ships hung in the darkness. 1 heavy cruiser, 2 destroyers, and 2 support vessels. Against what waited ahead, they looked pitifully small. Sensor sweep complete, reported Lieutenant Park from the scanning station. 32 Korthak vessels detected. Multiple patrol groups, heavy fortifications on the planet's surface. Jin studied the tactical display with her senior officers. Red dots marked enemy positions throughout the system. The Korthak had turned peaceful space into a military zone. They're not taking any chances, observed Commander Tanaka. Full perimeter defense, overlapping sensor coverage. They really don't want visitors. Dr. Thorne looked up from his medical preparations. Any word from the survivors? Scanning for weak transmissions now, Park replied. After several minutes, he found something. There. Very faint signal. Heavily encrypted. It's coming from underground on the planet. The message was short and desperate. Elder Voss, the Zelani colony leader, had managed to send a brief status report. His people were alive, but trapped in natural cave systems beneath their research complex. Food was running low. Several Zelani were badly injured and needed medical care soon. How long do they have? Jin asked Dr. Thorne. The medical officer checked his data on Zelani physiology. Based on their metabolism And what they told us about supplies? Maybe a week. Less if the injured don't get treatment. Jin turned back to the tactical display. A direct assault was clearly impossible. The human fleet would be detected the moment they approached the inner system. Even if they reached the planet, breaking through Korthak defenses would take days they didn't have. We need a different approach, she said finally. Something they won't expect. Commander Tanaka pulled up intelligence files on Korthak military doctrine. They're arrogant. Very predictable. They believe their own propaganda about being the strongest warriors in the galaxy. That arrogance is their weakness, Jin realized. They can't imagine anyone being bold enough to infiltrate their security. She outlined her plan to the shocked officers. Instead of fighting through the Korthak fleet, they would pretend to be part of it. Human ships would disguise themselves as Korthak reinforcements and blend in with enemy forces. That's completely insane, Lieutenant Park said admiringly. Insane enough that it might work, Tanaka agreed. I can modify our ship's external appearance and transmission signatures. We captured enough Korthak technology in the border wars to fake their identification codes. Dr. Thorne downloaded everything available about Korthak military protocols. We'll need to act like them, talk like them, think like them. One mistake, and we're exposed. The next 18 hours were a frantic race against time. Tanaka's engineering teams worked around the clock, mounting fake armor, plating, and weapon pods to make human ships look Korthak. They installed captured communication equipment and learned basic Korthak military procedures. Jin practiced speaking with alien voice modulators until she could pass for a Korthak officer over audio transmissions. Her crew studied enemy patrol patterns and learned the proper responses to security challenges. Remember, Jin told her people before they began the infiltration, we're not just pretending to be Korthak. We're pretending to be arrogant, overconfident Korthak who think they own the galaxy. Confidence is our camouflage. The disguised human fleet approached the first Korthak checkpoint with fake transponder codes broadcasting. Jin held her breath as enemy sensors swept over them. Unknown vessels, identify yourselves, came the challenge from a Korthak patrol leader. Jin activated the voice modulator and replied in the alien's harsh language. Reinforcement Fleet 779, reporting for duty. We're here to show these soft Zalani what real strength looks like. A pause that seemed to last forever. Then, acknowledged. Proceed to Grid 7 for patrol assignment. One checkpoint passed. The human ships moved deeper into the system, following Korthak navigation channels and obeying traffic control instructions. Each success made the next challenge easier, as enemy forces grew accustomed to seeing them. This is working too well, Tanaka muttered from the engineering station. Something's going to go wrong. But nothing did go wrong, at least not yet. The human fleet passed 3 more checkpoints, using the same combination of stolen codes and sheer audacity. Korthak officers never questioned their presence, too busy with their own duties to investigate thoroughly. Hours later, Jin's ships entered orbit around the Zalani homeworld. Below them, the planet's surface showed the scars of invasion. Smoke rose from bombed cities, and Korthak landing craft moved between fortified positions. Orbital command to Reinforcement 779 came a new transmission. Report your status and mission parameters. Jin's throat felt dry, but her voice remained steady. Fleet conducting standard patrol operations. All ships ready for combat deployment. Understood. Maintain current orbital pattern. War Prime Zethus may have special orders for your fleet later. The transmission ended, leaving the human crews in stunned silence. They had done it. 5 human ships now hung in orbit around an occupied planet, surrounded by enemy forces that had no idea who they really were. Phase 1 complete, Jin announced to her fleet. Now comes the hard part. Dr. Thorne was already preparing medical supplies for alien physiology. Commander Tanaka studied surface scans, looking for ways to reach the trapped Zalani without alerting ground forces. Lieutenant Park monitored enemy communications, learning Korthak patrol schedules and security procedures. Every piece of information might save lives in the hours ahead. Far below on the planet's surface, Elder Voss huddled with his people in dark caves. Their food was almost gone. Their power cells nearly dead. Some of the injured were getting worse despite their best efforts. But then Voss received an impossible message on a frequency only humans knew how to use. The transmission was brief and carefully coded, but its meaning was clear. Help was coming. Somehow, against all logic and possibility, the humans had found a way. Voss gathered his people and told them to prepare. They had survived this long by holding on to hope. Soon, they would learn if hope was enough. Captain Jin's ships maintained their orbit around the occupied planet, still disguised as Korthak reinforcements. Every hour they stayed increased the risk of discovery. But the rescue couldn't be rushed. One mistake would doom both the human crews and the Zelani survivors below. Incoming transmission from Planetary Command, Lieutenant Park announced. War Prime, Zethus wants to speak with our fleet commander. Jin felt ice in her stomach but kept her voice steady. Put him through. The main screen flickered to life, showing the scarred face of the Korthak leader. War Prime Zethus had the cold eyes of someone who enjoyed causing pain. His armor bore the marks of many battles, all of them victories. Reinforcement Commander, Zethus said in his harsh voice. I have new orders for your fleet. We're expanding search operations in the outer system. Take your ships and patrol the asteroid fields. Jin forced herself to respond like an arrogant Korthak officer. War Prime, my ships would be more useful here. We could assist with planetary security operations. Zethys leaned forward, his expression darkening. Are you questioning my orders? Not at all, War Prime. We live to serve. Jin quickly backed down, playing the role of a subordinate who knew better than to anger his superior. Good. Begin your patrol immediately. Report anything unusual. The transmission ended abruptly. Commander Tanaka looked worried. If we leave orbit now, we lose our chance to rescue the Zelani. By the time we get back, they might be dead. Jin studied the tactical situation. Refusing orders would expose them immediately. But obeying meant abandoning the rescue mission. We're not leaving, she decided. Tanaka, take the resilient and the defiant to patrol the asteroid field. Keep Zethus happy while the rest of us work down here. Captain, that cuts our force in half, Dr. Thorne protested. Better half a chance than no chance at all. 2 human ships departed for the outer system, while Jin's remaining vessels continued their orbit. She used the time to study detailed scans of the planet's surface. The Zelani research complex sat in a valley surrounded by ancient ruins. The aliens had been studying structures left by a vanished civilization, artifacts that might hold secrets about galactic history. Now, Korthak forces occupied the site, using it as a forward base. There, Dr. Thorne pointed to the scanner display. Underground cave systems extend for kilometers beneath the complex. Natural formations, probably carved by water millions of years ago. Jin studied the cave layout. The Zelani are hiding in these deeper chambers. The Korthak know they're down there, but haven't bothered to dig them out. Why not? Asked Lieutenant Park. Because they're cruel, Jin replied grimly. They want the Zelani to suffer slowly. It sends a message to other worlds about what happens when you resist. Dr. Thorne identified the medical challenges they would face. Several Zelani are badly injured, according to Elder Voss's messages. Their physiology is different from humans. I'll need specialized equipment to treat them properly. How do we reach them without alerting the surface garrison? Park wondered. Jin had been thinking about that problem for hours. We don't go through the Korthak. We go around them. She explained her plan. Instead of attacking the heavily defended complex, they would create their own entrance to the cave system. Commander Tanaka had left behind mining charges and tunneling equipment. A small team could bore through solid rock to reach the trapped survivors. That would take days, Dr. Thorne said. We don't have days. We have hours. Jin pulled up geological surveys. Look here. This ridge overlooks the valley from 2 kilometers away. The rock formation connects to the same cave system. We tunnel in from the side. Avoid the guards. Completely. Lieutenant Park studied the plan. It could work. High risk. But everything about this mission is high risk. As night fell on the planet's surface, human shuttlecraft deployed from the orbiting ships. They flew low and fast, using terrain features to avoid Korthak sensors. Jin led the ground team herself, carrying specialized equipment for the tunneling operation. The shuttles landed on the dark side of the ridge, hidden from enemy patrols in the valley below. Jin's team quickly unloaded their gear and sent the craft back to orbit. From this point forward, they were on their own. Dr. Thorne set up a portable medical station while Jin and her engineers studied the rock face. The geological scans were accurate. Dense granite separated them from the cave system where the Zelani waited. Controlled charges every 5 meters, Jin decided. Small explosions, precisely placed. We can't make enough noise to alert the Korthak base. The work was slow and dangerous. Each charge had to be calculated perfectly, creating enough force to fracture rock without causing cave-ins or seismic tremors. Jin's team worked through the night, making steady progress toward their goal. Meanwhile, Elder Voss tried to keep hope alive among his people. The Zelani were a peaceful species, evolved from herbivorous mammals on a world with gentle weather. They had never experienced war or cruelty like this. How much longer can we survive? Asked one of the scientists, her voice weak with hunger and fear. Help is coming, Voss assured her, though he wasn't certain himself. The human messages had stopped hours ago. Perhaps the rescue attempt had failed already. But then he heard something impossible. A faint tapping sound coming through the cave walls. Too rhythmic to be natural. Too precise to be accidental. Someone was digging toward them from outside. Voss pressed his ear to the rock and listened carefully. The sound was getting closer, following the cave system's natural contours. Whoever was out there knew exactly where to dig. Gather the injured, he told his people. Prepare for evacuation. Our rescuers are almost here. Back at the dig site, Jin's team broke through into the first natural chamber. Sweet air flowed out of the opening, carrying scents of growing things and clean water. The Zelani had chosen their hiding place well. Medical team, move up, Jin ordered. Dr. Thorne and his assistants squeezed through the narrow opening with their portable equipment. The first Zelani they encountered was a young scientist, barely conscious from blood loss. Dr. Thorne immediately began treatment, his hands steady despite the difficult conditions. You came, the alien whispered in amazement. You actually came for us. Of course we came, Dr. Thorne replied gently. Nobody gets left behind. That's the human way. Jin pushed deeper into the cave system, following the sounds of Zelani voices. Finally, she found Elder Voss, surrounded by the remainder of his people. The old scientist looked exhausted but determined. Captain Jin Seo-yun, Human Federation, she introduced herself. We're here to take you home. Elder Voss studied her face in the dim light. You risked everything for strangers. Why? Jin thought about her brother. About the colony the council had abandoned. About all the innocent people who died alone because nobody cared enough to try. Because it's the right thing to do, she said simply. Now, let's get your people out of here. The evacuation began immediately. But it would be a race against time. Dawn was coming. And with it, the risk that Korthak patrols would discover their operation. The evacuation moved faster than Jin had dared hope. Dr. Thorne worked miracles with his portable medical equipment, stabilizing injured Zelani for transport through the narrow tunnel system. His team had trained for emergency alien medicine. But this was their first real test under battlefield conditions. "This one has internal bleeding," Dr. Thorne reported as he examined an elderly Zilani scientist. "I can stop it. But she needs to reach the ship's medical bay within 6 hours." "You'll have her there in 4, Jin promised. Elder Voss supervised the evacuation from the caves, ensuring that all research data and artifacts were gathered along with his people. The ancient ruins held secrets that could benefit all galactic civilization if properly studied. "These star maps are priceless," he explained to Jin as they carefully packed crystalline data storage devices. The vanished civilization left behind navigation routes to uninhabited worlds suitable for colonization. This information could end territorial wars throughout the galaxy. Jin understood why the Korthak wanted this planet so badly. Control of ancient technology meant power over other species. That made the rescue even more urgent. "How many people still need evacuation?" she asked. 47, Voss replied. "The injured are going first, then families with children, then the research team." Above ground, the human tunneling operation continued. Jin's engineers had expanded the original passage to accommodate stretchers and equipment. The work was exhausting, but nobody complained. Then Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through Jin's communicator. "Captain, we have a problem. Korthak sensors detected seismic activity from the mining charges. They're sending investigation teams to this area." Jin checked her watch. Dawn was breaking across the valley. Soon, there would be enough light for enemy scouts to spot the shuttle landing sites and equipment positions. "How long do we have?" "Patrol vehicles left the main base 10 minutes ago. They'll reach the ridge in maybe 30 minutes. Jin made a quick decision. "All teams, double time the evacuation. Get as many Zilani out as possible before we're discovered." The pace increased dramatically. Human soldiers helped weak Zilani through the tunnel system, while Dr. Thorne's medical teams worked on the most critically injured. Every minute counted now. But 30 minutes wasn't enough time. When the Korthak patrol reached the ridge, there were still 20 Zilani in the caves, including Elder Voss and his research team. "Human equipment," the Korthak patrol leader snarled as he examined the tunneling gear. "Impossible. How did humans get past our defenses?" He immediately contacted War Prime Zethus. "War Prime, we've discovered evidence of human infiltration. They're conducting rescue operations right under our noses." The response was explosive. Zethus's rage could be heard across the communication channel. "Find them. Kill them all. No human escapes this planet alive." Jin heard the enemy transmissions through her intercepted radio equipment. "We're blown," she announced to her team. "Combat positions. Prepare for contact." The running battle began as Korthak reinforcements poured toward the ridge. Human soldiers took defensive positions around the tunnel entrance, using portable barriers and natural rock formations for cover. The first enemy patrol arrived in armored vehicles, their heavy weapons chattering as they tried to reach the tunnel mouth. Human return fire was precise and deadly, dropping Korthak soldiers before they could advance. "More vehicles incoming from the south," reported Sergeant Kim from his sniper position. Jin activated her communicator to contact the ships in orbit. "All vessels, we need immediate support. Begin diversionary attacks on Korthak installations." High above the planet, Jin's remaining ships dropped their disguise and revealed themselves as human vessels. The space battle erupted across the star system as the small fleet attacked Korthak positions with everything they had. The sudden appearance of human warships in Korthak-controlled space shocked enemy commanders. How had they penetrated the defensive perimeter? Where had they come from? War Prime Zethys scrambled his entire fleet to respond to the threat, pulling ships away from patrol duties to hunt down the human intruders. His pride demanded that these impudent aliens pay for their audacity. But the space battle was just a distraction. Jin's real objective remained the Zilani, still trapped in the caves. "Tanaka, to Jin," came a transmission from the outer system. We're heading back to assist. Hold your position. Negative, Jin replied. Continue your patrol. Don't break cover unless absolutely necessary. Underground, the evacuation continued despite the fighting above. Dr. Thorne moved the last injured Zilani through the tunnel, while Elder Voss gathered the remaining research data. This is everything, Voss said as he handed Jin a sealed container. Thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Promise me, it will be used for peace, not war. I promise, Jin said simply. But as they prepared to leave the caves, Korthak soldiers broke through human defensive lines. Enemy troops poured into the tunnel system, their weapons firing wildly in the confined space. Go, Jin shouted to her evacuation team. Get the Zilani to the surface. We'll hold them here. A desperate firefight erupted in the narrow tunnels. Human soldiers used their superior training and equipment to maximum advantage. But they were heavily outnumbered. Several brave men and women volunteered to hold rearguard positions, knowing they probably wouldn't survive. Commander Riley, Jin's tactical officer, took position at a tunnel junction with 2 other soldiers. Jin wanted to refuse, to find another way that didn't require such sacrifice. But there was no time and no choice. The Zilani were depending on them. Thank you, she said quietly. It wasn't nearly enough, but it was all she could offer. The last group of survivors reached the surface as Korthak reinforcements surrounded the ridge. Human shuttles descended through enemy fire, their pilots performing impossible maneuvers to reach the landing zone. Dr. Thorne loaded unconscious Zilani into shuttle medical bays, while Jin provided covering fire. Elder Voss was among the last to board, still clutching his precious research data. You saved us all, he told Jin as the shuttle lifted off. The galaxy will remember what humans did here. Just get that research to people who can use it properly, Jin replied. The shuttles climbed toward orbit through a storm of enemy fire. Several were hit, but their pilots kept flying through sheer determination. Behind them, the remaining human soldiers fought to the last round, buying time with their lives. As the evacuation craft reached the safety of space, Jin made a final count. 193 Zilani rescued. 7 didn't make it, lost to injuries too severe for Dr. Thorne's field medicine to heal. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to matter. In the caves below, Commander Riley and his team made their final stand against overwhelming odds. They died as they had lived, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The rescue was complete, but the price had been high. Now came the hardest part, getting everyone home safely. Captain Jin's battered fleet raced away from the Zilani homeworld with their precious cargo of survivors. The human ships had taken heavy damage during the evacuation, their hulls scarred by Korthak weapons, but they still flew. Status report, Jin called from her command chair. All shuttles recovered, reported Lieutenant Park. 193 Zilani aboard our ships. Dr. Thorne says the injured are stable. Behind them, War Prime Zethus led his entire fleet in furious pursuit. The Korthak commander's pride had been wounded by the successful rescue. He couldn't allow humans to escape after humiliating him so completely. 30+ enemy vessels closing fast, Park continued. They'll be in weapons range within 20 minutes. Jin studied the tactical display. Her small fleet was faster than most Korthak ships, but not all of them. Some of the enemy vessels would catch up before the humans could reach hyperspace. Engineering, how long until we can jump? Commander Tanaka's voice came through the speakers from the outer system, where her ships were racing to rejoin the fleet. Captain, our hyperspace motivators took damage during the orbital bombardment. We need another hour for repairs. An hour they didn't have. Jin made the hardest decision of her military career. All ships with working hyperspace capability, prepare to jump with the Zilani survivors. Damaged vessels will stay behind to delay pursuit. Captain, that's suicide, protested Lieutenant Park. That's an order, Jin replied firmly. She activated ship-wide communications. "This is the captain. All volunteers for rearguard action, report to battle stations. Everyone else, transfer to evacuation ships immediately." The response overwhelmed her. Nearly every crew member volunteered to stay and fight, even knowing they probably wouldn't survive. Jin had to order most of them to safety. 3 human ships prepared to make their stand while 2 others carried the Zilani toward the system's edge. It should have been a hopeless situation, but then something unexpected happened. Massive energy signatures appeared on sensors throughout the system. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace, lots of them, all broadcasting Galactic Council identification codes. "Unknown fleet. This is Speaker Morvain, aboard the Council flagship Harmony," came a transmission. "Identify yourselves and explain your presence in this system." Jin almost laughed at the irony. The same alien politicians who had refused to authorize the rescue mission had arrived to witness human failure. Instead, they found humans achieving the impossible. "This is Captain Jin Seo-yun, Human Federation," she responded. "We're conducting evacuation operations. The Zilani colony has been successfully rescued." A long pause followed. Speaker Morvain had expected to find human wreckage and Korthak victory. The reality was exactly reversed. War Prime Zethys reacted to the Council fleet's arrival with typical arrogance. His ships were already committed to pursuing the humans, so he continued the chase, ignoring the potential diplomatic consequences. "Council vessels, withdraw immediately," Zethys transmitted. "This system belongs to the Korthak Dominion. Your presence here is an act of war." Speaker Morvain found himself facing a moment of truth. He could withdraw and let the humans die, maintaining careful neutrality. Or he could choose a side, based on principle, rather than politics. The decision came when he saw Korthak ships firing on rescue vessels carrying innocent civilians. Some things mattered more than diplomatic protocols. "All Council ships, target the Korthak fleet," Morvain ordered. "Protect the evacuation craft." One by one, the species that had voted against the rescue mission joined the battle to save it. Altarian cruisers opened fire with their energy cannons. Vegan destroyers launched missile salvos. Even the cautious Centaurians engaged Korthak vessels. What had begun as a human rescue mission became a galactic statement about right and wrong. The space battle spread across the system as 24 Council ships engaged the Korthak fleet. War Prime Zethys found his pursuit force suddenly outnumbered and outgunned. "This is impossible," he raged. "The Council doesn't have the courage to fight." But courage, like hope, could be contagious. The human example had inspired other species to remember their own values. The tide turned quickly. Korthak ships, designed for bullying weaker opponents, couldn't stand against the combined Council fleet. Several enemy vessels were destroyed. Others fled toward the outer system. War Prime Zethys escaped in his flagship, but his military reputation was ruined. The Dominion's expansion plans had suffered a major setback. As the shooting ended, Jin received an unexpected transmission from Speaker Morvain himself. "Captain Seo-yun, the Council owes you an apology. We calculated costs when we should have counted lives." "No apology necessary," Jin replied. "You came when it mattered most." The rescued Zilani were transferred to Council medical ships, with advanced facilities for treating alien physiology. Dr. Thorne worked alongside specialists from a dozen species, sharing techniques he had developed during the rescue operation. Elder Voss insisted on speaking with the Council representatives before receiving medical treatment. The old scientist was weak, but determined to deliver his message. "The ancient ruins contained more than historical artifacts," he explained to the assembled diplomats. "We found star charts showing paths to thousands of uninhabited worlds suitable for colonization. This knowledge could end territorial conflicts throughout the galaxy." He handed Speaker Morvain the sealed data container that Jin had risked everything to save. The vanished civilization left these maps as a gift to whoever came after them. Use this knowledge wisely. The implications were staggering. Instead of fighting over existing territory, species could expand into empty space. Wars could become unnecessary when there was room for everyone. But the real transformation was more subtle. The rescue mission had changed how species viewed each other. The humans who ignored political calculations to save strangers had proven that some values transcended self-interest. New protocols were established for emergency rescue operations. Humanity was given a leading role in planning such missions, their experience and determination making them natural leaders in humanitarian crises. Captain Jin stood in the observation deck of a council medical ship, watching as Zilani families reunited with their loved ones. The injured were recovering. The children were safe, and hope had returned to faces that had known only despair. Elder Voss approached her, moving slowly but steadily. "Captain, I have a question that has puzzled me since you first appeared in our caves." "What's that? Why did you come? Your species had nothing to gain and everything to lose." Jin thought about her answer carefully. "My brother died on a colony the council abandoned 5 years ago. I couldn't save him, but I could save you." "So this was about revenge?" "No," Jin said quietly. "This was about making sure no one else dies alone when we have the power to help them. That's what makes us human." Voss nodded slowly. "The galaxy is lucky to have such humans." Later, at a formal council session, Speaker Morvain addressed the assembled representatives. "We have learned something important about the difference between wisdom and intelligence. Intelligence calculates odds and minimizes risks. Wisdom asks what kind of people we want to be." The human ambassador, Sarah Chen, was invited to address the council. Her speech was brief and simple. "We didn't come here to prove anything or teach any lessons. We came because people needed help. That's not complicated. It's not even heroic. It's just human." The Zilani colony was relocated to a beautiful world in council space, their research continuing under full protection. Elder Voss worked with human scientists to study the ancient star charts, preparing them for controlled release throughout the galaxy. Dr. Thorne returned to his ship, but found himself in constant demand as a teacher. His field techniques for treating injured aliens under combat conditions saved lives across known space. Commander Tanaka became an instructor at the Council's new tactical academy, teaching other species about human innovation and adaptability under pressure. Captain Jin received offers to join the Council fleet with her own command, but she preferred to stay with humanity's rescue service. There were always more people who needed help, more impossible missions that someone had to attempt. At a memorial service for the humans who died during the rescue, Jin spoke to their families and friends. They didn't die for politics or territory or even glory. They died so strangers could live. There's no higher purpose than that. The galaxy had learned something important from the Zilani rescue. Sometimes the crazy choice was also the right choice. Sometimes courage mattered more than calculations. And sometimes, what the wise called impossible, the brave simply called necessary. War Prime Zethus never recovered from his defeat. The Korthak Dominion began a slow retreat from their conquered territories, no longer confident that might always made right. Other species, inspired by the human example, began their own rescue services. The galaxy became a slightly better place because some people refused to abandon hope when others needed saving. Elder Voss kept his promise to remember what humans had done. The Zilani archives contained a detailed record of the rescue mission, ensuring that future generations would understand the price of compassion and the value of courage. In the end, the Council had been right about one thing. The rescue mission was indeed impossible. Humans had simply forgotten to tell the universe that impossible wasn't the same as wrong.